You're now entering the LuxCore Studios. And you've secured a seat for the Protecting Your Radius podcast. Here, we build connections from your contracting profession to some of the top bleeding edge products and services. Don't get deterred. Let's not delay. Here is your host, Nathan Downs.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Protecting Your Radius podcast. I'm your host, Nathan Downs. And on today's episode, we have a very special episode. I am excited to introduce to you a number of people. One of them is a friend of the show, Miss Catherine Mills-Reynolds with the American Fence Association. Catherine, how are you today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having us on.
Absolutely. And then we've got Eric and Dayna Quanbeck from the Hummingbird Alliance, the Hummingbird Association Foundation. Eric, Dayna, how are you all?
We're well. How are you? Thank you for having us.
Good. Absolutely. Well, it's a pleasure. I wish we were talking about all this and gathered here today under different circumstances, but you guys have a very special message. We are starting a Gate Safety Awareness Month in October this year of 2023, specifically about a situation that happened with your son, Alex. And Eric, I just kind of wanted to give you a floor real quick. There's several people that will be listening to this and watching this that maybe weren't at Fence Tech 2022 and saw your keynote presentation, but tell us a little bit about why we're here today.
Sure. I appreciate that, Nathan, and thank you again to everyone who's joining us today. So for those of you who were in Oklahoma City earlier in the year, you probably saw the keynote speech that I delivered. But for those of you who didn't, Dayna and I tragically lost our son, Alex Quanbeck, in December of 2019. He was killed at his school during recess when he was playing football, and he tried to close a 400-pound rolling manual gate that was about 8 feet tall. The gate had been built in response to Sandy Hook by the school, right, to prevent obviously any type of intrusion from anyone from the outside world. But when the gate was being shut by Alex, it came off the rail and fell on him, and he actually died instantaneously at school that day.
The city of Green Bay is in shock tonight after one of their own, a 7-year-old student, died at Mark Day Elementary School.
A fence fell over and crushed a young student.
This afternoon, it took 6 officers to lift the part of the fence that struck the student.
The 400-pound gate, 30 feet long, had also toppled a month earlier.
Got a text from Dayna saying, call me, Alex is hurt. And I remember reading it and thinking, I was in the middle of something. I was like, oh, I'll call right back. I thought he had fallen at a playground. The car ride felt like hours. And I see Dayna and she's like, we have to say goodbye to him. I remember screaming out and I just got tackled to the ground by a doctor. Like the world just stops. And I'm just pacing the hospital because at the time I'm thinking, how does someone die? He's supposed to be in recess. Eventually it came out that a fence had fallen on him.
He was the heartbeat of our family. I mean, he had so much empathy. He wore his heart on his sleeve. He was very, very loving, but he was high energy too, and funny, and so funny and silly.
He just had this aura about him where it would just suck you in.
Alex, he was just curious, but he was so smart. He was really, really a smart kid. I miss him so much.
Playing at recess, Alex closed a metal gate and it fell, crushing him.
Tonight, an Everett boy is dead after first responders say he was crushed by a 20-foot wrought iron gate.
I'm standing on Cross Drive in Citrus Heights, and it was here police say that a 6-year-old boy last night was pulling closed. The gate went past this stop, which was meant to support it, and the gate fell over on the child.
Matthew Catlett was crushed by a gate in his own neighborhood.
300-pound iron gate now being blamed in a tragic accident in North Phoenix. And right now, a young boy is fighting for his life.
In 2020, Esther Nagajigu was killed in Arches National Park by a metal gate arm.
The woman had family over, and as they left, she was closing the wrought iron gate, 12 to 15 foot long, that ran on a track in front of her house.
The awful force of the 20-foot gate when it fell on top of a 10-year-old boy.
A set of parents of a 3-year-old, they sent their daughter to preschool, but she never came home.
No one expects their child to die at school.
His death was preventable, and he should still be here with us.
Jeez. You know, one thing we've seen, Eric and Dayna, and I think this is really important with this, is right now there's a federal push for upgraded school safety and security. I know just in my town, we have 5 bond bills going right now that are federally funded specifically to do exactly what you're talking about was at Alex's school, right? Where we're protecting the entire perimeter, 8-foot tall iron fences, big, heavy duty, very secure, right? Very safe. But I think that's interesting, you know, because of what happened to Alex, that you guys are here talking about the how to really make a safety fence like actually safe. So we have context now of what's going on there. Eric, what have you guys done with the Alliance and what you've set up and what we're talking about today here, starting in this month? What have you guys been working on to eliminate those hazards for other people's children?
Sure. So you can imagine, you know, like any parent, we thought we were the only people who had gone through something like this, right? Losing their son at school to this type of tragedy. But unfortunately, as we started to do some work and some further diligence, we found out that there have been other children across the country who've died from falling gates. So not necessarily at a school, but for example, there was a 7-year-old in Mukilteo, Washington, who was crushed by a gate at his local synagogue. And what we found is that many of these gates didn't have a necessary safety mechanism called a fall stop post, which basically would prevent a gate from falling over. So even though a gate could come off the rails, it wouldn't fall all the way to the ground because a fall stop post would catch it. And so the work we've really done and championed, really with the help of the AFA and the ASTM candidly, is to really try and make this not only a requirement at the building code level, both at the local, state, and potentially national level, but also really to educate the industry how important it is to make sure these safety mechanisms are put both on a new gate installation and also any existing gates. Because the key to remember, Nathan, is these gates are quite massive. And so the gate at Mark Day, just as an example, was 30 feet long because it had to be wide enough so that a fire truck could access the back of the school. So you can imagine when you start to put that much height and weight into a gate, how dangerous it can be when the gate falls.
Yeah.
And really, we've been really pushing for an awareness and advocacy campaign, and we're just grateful that the AFA has really joined us and the industry is behind, you know, really trying to make sure this never happens again to any family.
Yeah, and I know as a professional working on these every day, not until I heard your story, Eric and Dayna, did I even ever think, to be honest, that a manual controlled gate would be such a hazard. And this comes from someone physically that myself with my guys, I mean, we load these things with skid steers. I mean, we put in all these giant structural, posts and all these other things around these gates to make them function. But I had never even considered outside of our electric gates that we automate that the manual gates could pose a hazard, such as we've seen here. So I think this is phenomenal to take such a tragedy and turn this into something that can change each one of our lives as contractors of how we think about this stuff and how we move forward. And I know, Catherine, to kind of spin it to your side, you've been doing a lot of work with the ASTM side with really, pushing this thing through the different channels that the AFA's has in front of them. What would you say has been your experience from beginning to today with all of these safety standards that you're pushing along here?
Well, one of the things that we have seen throughout the country is that a lot of municipalities do not follow ASTM standards. It is a suggestion, but you don't have to do it as your code unless your local municipality decides to make it part of the code. And it's caused problems for fencers, contractors, manufacturers, and families like the Quanbecks from all different angles, whether that be a tragic incident like this, where there's a loss of a life life, which is the worst time when that happens, or if it's something as simple as taking a warranty out of the picture that a manufacturer has created because they've created it in line with ASTM standards, and yet a city code does not follow those standards. So as we go across the country and we look at different AFA chapters and issues that they're having, a lot of times they directly relate to them trying to follow the ASTM standard and their local municipality not enforcing that standard and having a lot of issues because of it.
Yeah. So, Eric or Dayna, I think what a challenge for us as contractors, speaking from a contracting side, is it makes it difficult to talk about these things, to talk about safety standards when there's never been a precedence for it before. I know on the like I mentioned earlier, for everyone that watches this and listens that does electric gates, we're fully aware of, what's safe and what not safe. But what has the reception been in the marketplace? And then first from what you've seen from our end of the business, but then from the municipality side, from the school districts, from, you guys are out of, didn't mention this, you're out of the San Francisco, the Bay Area of California, right? So what's the reception been from the local governing bodies, the school districts, any ISDs, all those people that you've each talked to?
For over 30 years, Southwest Automated Security has been the premier provider of gate operators, access controls, CCTV, and so much more. Visit southwestautomated.com today, taking dealers to the next level.
The response has been very positive. The recognition that we can all do better, it's there. We're incredibly grateful for the AFA and the trade really getting behind this and saying this is something that matters to us in our everyday lives. I think consumers as well, when people hear our story, they're asking questions, they're calling on their heads of schools to say, when was the last time we've had an inspection? Tell me a little bit about the safety protocols that you take. And for us, we won't know how many lives we save or phone calls we save or injuries that, we can prevent. But we know that together, it's a meaningful amount. On the legislative side, we've had success in our home county in Marin.
Just to add on, I think what's been most powerful for people is the actual installation is minimal. So it's about a $50 part.
Yep.
And probably an hour of labor. And so you can imagine for someone who's putting in a new gate, it's just an incremental amount of time and cost, right? Especially with how expensive some of these gates can be. And then even for an existing gate, just to retrofit that gate to add a false stop post is de minimis. And so there really hasn't been any pushback in terms of how complex it would be to make all these gates safe. And to Dana's point, at the building code level, we've passed building code amendments in about 9 cities / areas here in Marin. Basically, they've acknowledged that there's a gap in the current building code in terms of the requirement to follow and adhere to ASTM standards like Catherine talked about earlier. And so our hope, I don't want to get ahead of myself, is that we can make this a statewide initiative here in California and then potentially across the country.
Yeah.
Right? Because the first thing I learned just when we started the Hummingbird Alliance is just how massive the fencing industry is. Mm-hmm. We saw that firsthand in Oklahoma City, and we continue to be amazed at how often people turn to your industry just for security. And it's not just a school. Right?
Yeah, right.
And so when people think about security, they think about putting up a defined perimeter. And you guys are such a natural partner for our message, right? And have really embraced it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Catherine knows she's been around this industry her whole life. There's a lot of, we got a lot of salt of the earth type people, across the board. And, we all just want to do better, right, Catherine? Like we all just want to, just thinking to Alex's story, how heartbreaking it is for me as a security professional, thinking that because of our lack of information or our lack of wherewithal, that we've put anybody in danger Like that's never been from a professional like fence contractor or gate contractor. That is never our intention. That's never our desire, right? Like no one wants that. But especially to see that these situations happen, and the fact of they may be uncommon, but the fact of the matter is, and this is why we have to talk about it, like anything in our world today, without awareness and actually like getting in front of these situations and seeing what you guys have done just within Marin County, but let alone the impact that this is going to have across the United States, and then everybody listening to this. So this is why you're here today. Because there is people from Washington to Florida to Texas to New York that listen to this every single week. Thank you, by the way. But this message is like it's now time to start getting it in front of people like myself and friends of our show and more, where we can make this not like eliminate these things as best as possible we can, as the bulkhead of the industry that is the professional that wants to do the right thing. And like both of you know, whether it's a school, a place of worship, any type of public facility, government, local, city, state, whatever that looks like, we have a precedence to do better and to make these places safe. Like, it doesn't mean every house can be safe, unfortunately, because we see that all the time. But from a commercial perspective, there's no reason in the world this stuff should ever happen, Catherine. And it makes me think back to so obviously this is on the forefront with Gate Safety Awareness Month and what you've got coming up here this month, Catherine. What are you doing specifically, and what has happened where you really see tides turning for us as an industry with gate safety across the board?
Yeah. Well, and briefly, just before I answer that question, I think there are so many things in the world today that are bad and we want to stop them and they're just too big, right? But this is something that we actually have the power to prevent as fence professionals in the industry. And thankfully for the Quanbeck's message, we can have this awareness and actually go in and save lives. And there are very few things, particularly from working in the government relations angle, that you can actually see it and one person actually can make that difference. So I just think that's a great encouragement for all of us to know that we can actually be the heroes in future stories that would prevent this from happening again. And in terms of the tide being turned, I think just what they have done and really being sacrificial and sharing something that is, I can only imagine the depths of pain that it is just have to go through that. And yet to realize that they can make this for good for future generations, for bringing this attention to our industry so that we can make it better. And people have been extremely receptive to that message. No one is against this message. Everybody wants people to do the right thing. As you said, our fence professionals and contractors, they want to do the right thing. Now they know even more in depth what that entails and why it's important. And that tide has definitely been turned. And so we want to celebrate that. We want to celebrate the fencers out there who are working every day to be the heroes in their own community of doing the right thing. So we are actually going to be doing this month a tagging campaign for all of your listeners out there. If they want to tag Gate Safety Awareness with a picture of a great gate they just installed, it can be a walk gate, it can be a slide gate, it can be electric gate, whatever gate they've got going on, we want to see it, and we're going to push that out to our own social media channels as well.
Very cool. I'm excited. So on a technical side, Eric, I want to ask you a technical question here. So the roll gate situation with Alex, that thing, of course, it was a manual fire gate. So it didn't have our traditional fallover protection that if it had an operator on it, we would need to keep it from going over 45 degrees, right? If it broke or whatever. So on the slide gates, that's what you guys have moved the manual side to covering fall protection for the slide gates. Okay.
Really, it's an extension of what actually started in the automatic side of the house, right? To the point you made earlier, the industry's actually rallied to this challenge before. Back in early 2000, the Consumer Protection Safety Commission notified people how dangerous automatic gates were.
Yep.
So like I said, many of these standards and best practices already exist. It's just applying them to manual gates.
Yep. On swing gates, have you guys looked at that? Are you aware of some of the things we've done on the operated side of the swing gates?
Yeah, no, that's really next in terms of what we're hoping to tackle with the AFA. I know the ASTM is considering adding new language to codify requirements for swing gates.
Yep.
But again, there's been tragedies that have resulted from swing gates that didn't have a proper safety mechanism. And so that's another avenue, right, that we're trying to spread awareness on as
Absolutely.
well. Because that's a very similar project. It's a minimal cost, right, to put that safety mechanism in place.
Yep. Yeah, we had, for a story of my own, we actually had, believe this or not, we were working on the mayor's gate in Tulsa, and he had us design and build some 8-foot tall solid steel double doors for his driveway. We were working on, I think it was Columbus Day, and one of my workers had his 11-year-old son there, and we were in the process of hanging the gate and welding on the hinges and everything. So we hadn't done any of we actually used cables for our fallover protection. So the cables weren't applied or anything at this point. And one of the welds broke. The gate actually fell on my technician, myself, and his son. Well, his son tried to catch the gate, and he was under the gate. Now, fortunately, I was standing there. I'm a very big guy. I picked up the 800-pound gate, and we got him out, and I'm mortified. What was worse was the client has video of it. So he sends me video. What's going on? No, we're at the hospital. He's going to be fine, etc. But I was thinking that was just from an installation standpoint and what was going on, let alone, oh my gosh, what would have happened if that failed and it's operated and the mayor's kids are outside? I mean, holy cow, like this is a absolute tragic situation. I mean, not every day you're going to have it said in City Slickers, Mr. Morelli in City Slickers, if anybody remembers back to that movie, but he talks about saving a woman on a construction site because he's got superhuman strength and he can pick up a tooth. So I'm not there every day to save everybody, but thank God, my technician's child wasn't hurt because there were people there, but there's, that really, for me personally, and that was, oh my gosh, 6-7 years ago, that was a situation that I never thought I would be in, let alone while we're working, right? So now it's changed even how we operate in my company. If we're around these situations, if there are children, and say you are nowhere near what we're doing ever, it just allowed us to make a safer work environment, not only for our employees, but also for our customers, for the consumers, for everyone around a construction site, because you don't realize that these things, even these big gates, like I said, you don't realize an 800-pound gate's a problem till it's a problem, and then you're everyone's mortified and shocked, I can't believe this happened, but
No, I tell people it's similar to when your closet door comes off the rails.
Yeah.
We've all done that. When you're sliding your closet door and it comes off the rail. I mean, that's the analogy I tell people. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that can happen to a gate.
Yep.
Right.
And the only difference is your closet door doesn't weigh right. Doesn't weigh it's not as massively large as what we're discussing here. So to kind of wrap this thing up and put a bow on it, Catherine, from the association side, I know we've got these initiatives and stuff. What do you see coming into 2024 with what you're doing on your end for the gate safety side?
Yeah. Well, the American Fence Association really prides itself on being the home for fencers, manufacturers, and professionals in the industry. And so, as you know, we do a lot of our AFAU, our on-the-road classes, our training courses. So Eric has so graciously agreed he's going to actually be at our AFAU down in Texas in the fall, and he will be there helping train and give some guidance and education to us. I think he will also have an opportunity at FinTech this year. So we are incorporating these new learnings in our own education seminars so that we can continue to deliver the top of the line education programs that we've we've done for so long, but adding this important piece to it. So that's one thing that we will continue to do in probably even greater ways. In terms of our government relations side of things, Dayna and Eric have really led the way on that in their own communities, but we are here to support them in what ways that we can. That's an important work that they're doing and important legislation that they are working on in the state of California. So we are here to support that effort and, of course, kind of carry that message to other communities. As I said earlier, there are already so many contractors and fencers who want to be doing this well already, and they've already started to change even without their own laws changing, and that's a wonderful thing. But we want to change the laws for 10 years from now so that if somebody doesn't know this story, that they're going to be able to save lives, not even knowing this background, but because we worked hard to make sure somebody's doing it right.
Absolutely. And Eric, I'm excited that you're going to be at AFAU, American Fence Association University. That's November 5th through 11th in Arlington, Texas. Registration is open for those of you listening to this. You can go to the American Fence Association's website and get more information about that. I think you click Fence Installer School or Fence Gate Technician School. Any of those options will get you over to the AFAU side for registration and get more information. But Eric, Dayna, I want to leave everyone with you all. You guys know where you started in 2019, dealing with that and where you are today. Just briefly, what lasting message, besides the things you've already mentioned, but what really essence do you want to leave each one of the contractors listening to this right now?
Well, many of you are parents, grandparents, aunts and uncles, and I know that you grieve with us and can't imagine what we're going through. Your action gives us moments of peace, and so I'd just like to say thank you. For people listening that are not in the trade, you can ask questions of your own home, places of worship, schools. When was the last time our fence was inspected? And I think if we all come together, we will make our world safer. But mostly I just want to express gratitude for this platform to raise the awareness that we need to make the change we need to make.
Yeah, for me, I just would echo that and say how honored we are that you guys have embraced our story. For Dayna and I, it's just the best way that we can think of to honor Alex is to just prevent, and we'll never know how we did it or when it would have happened, but we can prevent another mother and father from getting that phone call.
Yeah.
Because the response from your industry and all the people who are part of it has really been overwhelming.
Yeah.
And that truly means the world to us.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate you taking time out of your schedules today. Catherine, as always, it's a pleasure talking to you. And man, if anybody else wants to follow the Hummingbird Alliance, all the things that you guys are doing over there, Dayna, Eric, what's a good way to do that? Social media, website?
All of the things,
okay.
Nathan.
Go ahead and leave us with all of it. What's your handles everywhere? Where can we follow you guys?
Hummingbird Alliance. We're on Instagram, LinkedIn. Go direct to our website, hummingbirdalliance.org. Okay. We'll be linked to one another. The AFA will be cross-amplifying these efforts, and we'll find you.
Awesome.
Don't worry.
Awesome. Well,
we'll also have links on our site to their site, so you can find it there as well.
Okay, cool. Thank you, Catherine. So, yeah, hopefully, I hope each one of us as contractors listening to this today, you feel what has happened here and know that we can make differences. Each one of us out there has the opportunity and the availability to make sure that these tragedies don't happen in the future. And start realizing that these are the things that we deal with on a day-to-day basis, and safety matters and security matters, and that's why we're talking about it today. So from the Radius side of the house to each one of you out there, appreciate you guys being on today. Thank you so much for taking your time, and everybody out there, keep on fencing. Thanks.
Thank you.
You've been listening to the Protecting Your Radius podcast from the LuxCore Studios in Bixby, Oklahoma. Thanks for sticking around, and connect with us and all of our partners at www.protectingyourradius.com. We want to thank our premier partners. LuxCore, the newest line of premium quality composite infill to slide into your fence track fence system. Frame your style today. Also, Stain Track, the world's first patented standalone stain machine. Utilizing flood coat technology, Stain Track covers boards, pickets, posts, and any type of dimensional wood you can think of. And what better way to use your Stain Track machine than to use the easy application Wood Defender family of stains. Wood Defender goes on easy and covers in one coat with no back brushing. And of course, the true power of our show is you, the listener. Please rate and review our show on whatever platform you consume this content. Your 5-star likes and reviews help other contractors get the message that we all want to be better and do better. And in the construction world, we can never forget that before you can be great, you've got to be good. Before you can be good, you've got to be bad. But before you can even be bad, you've got to try.